Thank you very much.
First and foremostly, Mr. Tsotsotso, when is the cancellation of the services effective for Autopax, or was it done already?
The cancellation of services by Putco is effective as of the 30th of June, which was yesterday. We, however, gave notice to the Department of Transport as well as the Gauteng Department of Transport in February of this year, informing that the contracts on the 3 affected routes, being Mamelodi, Merton and Cathoris, come to an end at the end of March. We were then requested by the MEC, Mr. Ishmael Vadi, as well as the Gauteng Premier, Mr. David Makuru, to extend these services up until the 30th of June in order to give the department sufficient time to find a replacement operator. Now, between February and the 30th of June, which was yesterday, we've been back and forth trying to find a resolution in terms of how we can communicate moving forward. With no joy, but unfortunately we had to pull out.
Now, let's look at the reasons for the cancellation of the service. Why was that? Was it necessary?
It was necessary. The three affected contracts we're talking about, Elvis, go back in essence almost 10 years ago. Now, we are looking at a subsidy that has remained in place since 10 to 15 years. If you look at the current fuel price, labor price, spares parts has gone up in 2015, yet we're still being subsidized on the old kilometer rate. So it therefore becomes unprofitable for a business on the financial sense, and it becomes a burden. I'll give you a typical example. In the last financial year, we lost 60 million rand just on these 3 routes. Now, that's on the profitable side of things. In terms of servicing our customers, Putco has a mandate to effectively transport more than 340,000 passengers a day nationwide. If we were to continue with these 3 affected routes, it would mean that we'd continue to jeopardize the service or quality of our service nationally. And we had to make a business decision to say, how do we therefore rescue the ship on a national level and therefore compromise what's currently not making money?
When we talk about financial viability for these routes, what is that? Is that there was no people or commuters using the routes, or what was it?
Commuters have always been there. Commuters will always be there. The issue here comes down to the contracts and the subsidies. So bus companies work on a subsidy. The subsidy rate which Putco currently has on these 3 contracts, or had on these 3 contracts, like I said, it goes back to 15 years ago. Meanwhile, the operation of running a business in 2015 has escalated tremendously. And I alluded earlier to costs such as labor, fuel, tires, etc. So how do you maintain a business with business costs in 2015? Meanwhile, the subsidy which you represented goes back to 10 or 15 years ago.
The new operator that came on board, were they prepared?
Well, I don't speak on behalf of the new operator, but having listened to the MEC, Mr. Ishmael Vadi, yesterday, he affirmed that they were indeed prepared. I do believe that there were a few technical glitches this morning, but I can't confirm anything as I don't speak on their behalf.
Which routes were affected by the cancellation?
So the routes specifically pertain to Mamelodi, Merton and Cathoris. Cathoris is your Vosloorus, your Springs, your Germistons, etc. I must also state for the record that for all the other routes, it's business as usual for Putco.
Now, when we talk about all the other routes and also the commuters themselves, were they informed about these changes?
Absolutely. We've been transparent with both government as well as our passengers as early as February. So we had we had the same communication and split up into 2 channels. On the one side, we're talking to government and other stakeholders. On the other end, we're talking to labor and our employees. On the other end, we're talking to our passengers through passenger forums, which we have on a monthly basis, through passenger notices, which we have being stuck up in various boards and on the buses as well.
What about the taxi organizations? Were they notified?
I stand to be corrected, but we don't necessarily deal with the taxi organizations. Our primary mandate is the Department of Transport, as well as the unions and our passengers. So we don't necessarily have an obligation to engage with the taxi organizations, but we have a responsibility to engage with us all as stakeholders respectively.
To what degree will the commuters be affected by this change now?
Greatly so, unfortunately. We're looking at about 25,000 passengers who are going to be affected.
In the 3 areas?
In the 3 areas. That's 25,000 families. I heard this morning that there were technical glitches in some of the areas, so it means that people won't be able to get to school on time, to work on time. What that does to the economy, both on the local front, can be catastrophic.
Now, we understand that the service is supposed to start today, and I know that you don't speak on behalf of Autopax, but obviously there must be some indication in terms of that handover from Putco to Autopax. Was there any handover or any negotiations in terms of that?
So the contract which we had, Elvis, is a contract between Putco and
government.
Oh, yes. So if there were to be a handover, which there was in all documentation prepared, it was done with government. How government therefore engages with its new service provider is unfortunately out of our hands.
What now? What next now after this? I mean, there's a standoff now between the taxi operators as well as Autopax, because they said they were promised these routes.
Again,
do you know anything about
Again, I don't speak on behalf of taxi organizations, no Autopax. I know that from our side, it's been a sad couple of months. Devastating in the sense that, Putco has built an affinity with some communities over the years. We've built relationships between drivers and community members, and it's relationships which unfortunately have come to an end.
Tshepo, thank you so much for joining us here in studio. That was Tshepo Tsotsotso, the Putco spokesperson, chatting to us. Now, for more on this issue and the story